Today, child psychologist Dr. Jody Carrington shares with us 5 ways to step back into the classroom better than we ever were before, with 5 great ideas to help children regulate their emotions. If you're struggling with students having emotional dysregulation in your classroom, this is a must listen. Episode 551.
The 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with Vicki Davis. Every weekday, you'll learn powerful, practical ways to be a more remarkable teacher today.
Today's sponsor is E for Effort. Stay tuned to the end of the show to learn how this easy-to-use system gives feedback on effort to your students and makes it easy. And you can get a 30-day free trial. Stay tuned. Today, we're talking with Dr. Jody Carrington, author of Kids These Days, a game plan for reconnecting with those we teach, lead, and love. And today, I'm so excited about this topic. Can we be better than we ever were before, Jody? I mean, because some of us have been teaching. This will be year 18 for me.
Absolutely. And listen, what you do every day is holy work. And you hang on to our babies for more hours a day than us parents do. And I don't want you to ever forget your power, because what matters most to kids these days is the relationships with the people who hold them. And if you're going to hang on to my kid for more hours a day than I do, what you do can be transformational. So I want you to think about, as you step back into the classroom, this year is going to be the best year you have ever had.
Yeah, because, here's the thing. If a teacher says these are bad kids, this is going to be a bad year, why would we ever want to do that to ourselves? Why would we ever want to have some sort of terrible self-fulfilling prophecy in that way?
Well, you know what? I think teaching is such a critical career that we don't look at nearly enough. We don't look after you educators as we need to. And I think our kids are only okay as if those of you holding them are okay. And I think what I want, your listeners to think about is just how important they are every single day. And that if they have lost their joy, see, purpose and passion are tightly connected. If you've lost your purpose, you've lost your passion. And I don't think you deserve that. If you've been doing this for 18 years, you have changed more lives than you can ever imagine. And most of them won't be able to tell you, because the ones who need it the most are the hardest to give it to. If you've forgotten that, that's the biggest thing, because you deserve joy more than many other professions on this planet. The institution of education touches almost every child. And if we want to change the future direction of the world, teaching needs to be our focus. Educators need to be our focus. So I think we're going to talk today a little bit about how this can be the best year. Hey?
Yeah. So what's our first?
Okay, so 5 things I want you to think about, and they're super easy. If you've done this for more than 5 minutes, you know this. You're going to be sitting there thinking like, But I just want to remind you of how critically easy this is. And the first thing is something I like to call the light up. So I want you to never underestimate your power to just lose your friggin' mind over kids and even staff. The ones who need it the most are the hardest to give it to. And that's a true testament to that is how often we don't light up around our partners. And so what would happen to that person if you walked through the door and went, hi, how are you today? Oh, I missed you today. For most people, they say that the response would be like, are you okay?
Yep.
Have you been drinking? Because you're never. So the deal is kids who need it the most also respond the same way. So I want you to watch what happens when you step back in your classroom and really get excited about the kids who rarely get that response from adults in their world. We often talk about up here in Canada, they're usually named Jackson with an X or Chase, or, we've got our top 10 that seem to be the kids. They're never the Taylors, the one with cute pigtails. Everybody lights up around her. She smells good and she brings you baking. I want you to think about the ones who really struggle, and they really struggle inside the classroom, but they will also struggle outside the classroom. And so when they step onto a soccer field or, in their local church or their Boys and Girls Club, very few people go, Jax, you're here. You will change the trajectory of a child's life simply by the light up.
Absolutely. And that's definitely something that I believe in and try to live every day. Okay, what's our second?
Number 2, eye contact and saying their names. Eye contact we're losing the art of eye contact because we're so disconnected in our culture currently. Everybody carries a phone, everybody carries a device. And so our babies are watching us as we don't interact in the grocery store, or we get our groceries delivered, or we do less and less face-to-face connection with other people. And what matters most, how I get a kid regulated, is if I get their eyes, and not in a way that is like, look at me. Yeah. That's not okay. But if I know the health of a school, when I stand outside in the bus lane or at the entry of any classroom and I see teachers look at kids and say their names every morning, good morning, Josh. Good morning, Julie. Good morning, Cadence. those babies that look at me, those ones are okay. The ones that avert my eyes, something's going on. And not, maybe they got a toothache, maybe they're tired, but your eyes, when you're confident and confident, are up and connected. And when they're not, you think about people who are grieving or mourning or are struggling with anxiety or depression, eye contact is the first to go.
Yep.
The exception to that is kids on the autism spectrum, but that's a whole other topic we could talk about another day.
Yeah.
But they still make eye contact to judge safety. So anybody who has a story, eyes are the first thing that I want to look at all the time. So if I want to regulate a babe, I'm going to take a look with all due respect to get their eyes and to say their name, because their name is the first word they've ever learned.
I came across some research. It's been a little over 10 years ago now that cows with names give more milk. That we have a biological need for someone to say our name, not just humans, but any living, breathing animal, and how much more precious and more important are our children than a cow. So,
right. And we often say names in a critical way, right? Like we use names when we're like, Asher Grant or hey,
Yeah.
But what happens in the morning when I say, Vicky, hi. And we've known this in sales and marketing for years. Like if somebody's trying to sell you something in a telemarketing way, they're always like, Vicky, you really need that. Vicky, look at you. You, Vicky, I think that. And we do that really deliberately. And we really haven't transferred that over as much as I think we need to even, the classroom or, I talk a lot to first responders as well about how do I get people regulated. Eyes and names, man. It's the easiest, most free tool we have.
That's great. Okay, what's our third?
The third one is real simple too. It's I want you, if you need to give feedback or instruction, I want you to be on the same level as another human being. So if I am teaching elementary, I want you on your bum in the boot room. If you are a bus driver, I want you to be, if you need to give a kid trouble on a bus, you sit down, particularly with adolescents. A lot of times this is difficult, but if you coach a team in middle school or high school, having good conversations when you're like, on the bus to the basketball game, when you are on the same level as another human being, you co-regulate much quicker. So even you think about that in some of our high schools, if you need to give instruction to a kid who's not getting it, bend down beside their desk. It's simple, but it is so powerful. Our prefrontal cortex comes back on so much easier when I'm face to face than if somebody's towering over me.
Oh, love that. Okay, what's our fourth?
This is my favorite because I'm a Ukrainian Canadian girl. You feed them and they will come. Food in the classroom is so critically important. And there's tons of policies around this. And nutrition is a big focus. I get it. But you cannot regulate emotion and swallow. You cannot be dysregulated and eat. So if I am getting a kid who's super upset or, even before a big test, I always make sure that kids have a drink of water. If a kid is, sort of destroying a classroom, having a really awful time, my point of entry is let's go get a drink of juice. Come on, let's have a snack. And then we'll talk about it. It is not about rewarding the bad behavior. It's about getting you regulated so then I can teach you. I cannot do that in reverse because a dysregulated kid cannot learn. So the quickest way I get there is often to say, let's get a drink and let's have a snack. I have snacks all the time, whenever I go into a classroom or certainly in my therapy office. And we're at this real crux between behavioral interventions and sort of relationship focused interventions. And we are confusing food as a reward. We've used it as a reward historically forever. And I'm talking about using it as a strategy to get a kid regulated so that then I can teach.
Yeah, and it does change the body chemistry in important ways. And there are a lot of kids, honestly, these days who are hungry, and it does impact their behavior as well. So, okay, what's our fifth?
So last but not least, proximity matters. So you cannot regulate a kid. You cannot send a kid out of the classroom and hope that they will regulate on their own. Kids can only regulate in the relationship with another human being. And so when I give a kid a timeout, I'm a huge believer in timeouts for us, not them. Because if I am so dysregulated that I can't help a baby make sense of hard things. So I think about this with my own kids, right? When I'm losing my friggin' mind, my kids don't stand a chance. So if I in a classroom, if the kid is losing it and I need to get them away from the other kids, sending them out matters. Getting to them as quickly as I can is even more important. And I need to make sure that I'm in a good place to be able to do that so that I can help them regulate.
That I can't tell you how true that is, because very often when kids, quote, lose their mind or become disrespectful, we're also losing our mind. And, I committed to myself many years ago, about in my second year of teaching, that I would not walk in that classroom unless I could honestly say I loved every single student. And there have been times when I've had to say, you know what, I need you to watch my classroom for a minute because I need to go calm down. An angry teacher doesn't make good decisions. We just don't.
Right. And there's so much on your plate, right? And I really, it's this whole piece about how do we look after you so that you can look after them. And that's a piece in education that I think we've really missed. But they're only okay if we're okay. Right. And so that idea of taking a break or even turning around, because sometimes you can't leave your classroom, taking that deep breath and going like, I get to give these children back in 2 hours. Come on, mama. We got this, right? Those kind of things allow you just to step back into those tiny humans because they're doing the best they can with what they got. And oftentimes it isn't enough, particularly when it's the end of the day or, their stories are horrific or they haven't ate today or, all of those things contribute to emotional dysregulation. And you cannot learn how to get regulated unless you're dysregulated first. So it's a necessary thing we got to go through for kids. We got to figure out how we assist them in that process.
Okay, so as we finish up, give us a 1-minute pep talk to bring it all together about how to go back into our classrooms better than we've ever been.
All right. I feel like this is the holiest minute of my life because if you only knew how powerful you are, if you think about top 3 kids that you would never, ever forget in your teaching career right now, if you get them in your head, I promise you they think about you 20 times as much. You change the trajectory of lives simply by the profession you chose. It is holy and you are amazing. And so as you step back into the classroom this year, those tiny humans are put in your path to know that they matter. One thing and one thing only, they matter. Literacy and numeracy will follow.
Educators, how's that for a motivational Monday? Thank you, Jody.
Yeah, thank you, Vicki.
E for Effort is a tool built upon the research behind helping students improve. For example, in their book, Performance Management, Aubrey Daniels says that a small immediate consequence that is certain to occur, or effort scoring, is much more powerful in the behavior change process than large consequences. This would be grades in this example that occur in the future. I've written a full review on my blog about E for Effort, but I also want you to check out coolcatteacher.com/effort for more information on this system and start encouraging effort with your students. Today, we learned 5 ways to step back and to help our students with emotional dysregulation. But today, I am giving you the Name That Student Challenge. I challenge you to call the names of as many students as possible in a positive way today, as many times as possible. If you do this challenge with a friend, then share at the end of the day the kind of response you received from the children. It's worth testing it out and seeing what kind of response your students give as you use their name. Trust me, it's one of my tried and true strategies, and we just want those children to feel like they are very important because they are.